Behind the scenes at a broadcasting station. 8 young artists resting after their juvenile program recently broadcast from WOR, Newark. The microphone was not on the air during the ice cream eating. Lady Tarrington, another woman member of Parliament, who was recently elected for Wickham, Bucks, listening to what must be quite entrancing radio signals. Radio craftsmen in school. Boys of Public School Number 6, New York, with radio sets they built themselves. Boy Scouts controlled WJZ for a day in their campaign for 1,000 new scout leaders in Greater New York. The boys announced and managed the station themselves. The group is examining the oscillograph, the instrument which enables the control operator to see what the station is sending, and so to check the quality of the broadcasting. The Detroit News Orchestra. Every weekday from 3 to 3:30 p.m., you can hear, via radio, a concert by this orchestra of 8 men from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Every man is a virtuoso on his instrument. A radio-equipped car ready for a transcontinental trip these 4 men plan. Camping and cooking gear and the dog are stowed neatly on the side of the car. The receiving set will help them while away many a dull evening when they are camped along the roadside. President Coolidge calmly before the calm microphone in a recent radio address. The president has 3 times lately made use of radio to reach great numbers of his fellow countrymen. So can the strength of the chief executive be saved. As the most prominent Republican candidate for the presidential nomination in June 1924, he may be heard quite frequently by the nation's radio listeners. Senator Hiram Johnson at home before a receiving set. As another presidential candidate, his voice may also soon be heard by radio listeners who have a bent toward politics. William Gibbs McAdoo addressing the radio audience before a Los Angeles microphone. Mr. McAdoo is another candidate for the presidency who says he intends to use radio in the campaign. One of the youngest radio fans is Miss Arlene Weber of Chicago. She apparently has no complaint to offer on the incoming program. In London, operators from 2LO of the British Broadcasting Company on the roof of a convenient building, picking up the Westminster chimes and the musical boom of Big Ben atop the Houses of Parliament. The microphone is suspended in sponge rubber and is connected by land wire to the station 3/4 of a mile away. Listening to time signals from POZ at Nauen, Germany at a German radio exhibition. Broadcasting in Germany has not attained nearly the same popularity as in the United States. German broadcast listeners using a receiver which is quite generally sold by one of the broadcasting companies. These receivers are sealed and can only be used over a certain band of wavelengths. The Hotel Savoy Band, a well-known dance orchestra from a well-known London hotel, whose excellent programs have been broadcast for the especial benefit of American listeners from 2LO and the other 8 BBC stations. At WHN, Billy West and Billy Murray Broadcasting. WEAF's suit against this station for alleged violation of American telegraph and telephone vacuum tube patents was recently adjusted out of court. A modern one-man German band has been evolved by this rather ingenious German who has mounted this radio set on a cart, which may have before held his hand organ. He tunes in Berlin programs and depends on the financial appreciation of his audiences for support. The Edmonton Journal, newspaper and radio plant in far-off Alberta. At WDAF is Leon J. Fitzpatrick, who is chief announcer of the station, Happy Lark of the famous Nighthawk Frolic, and radio editor of the Kansas City Star. At WWJ is Edwin L. Tyson, whose measured, calm accents are a pleasant event in the lives of radio listeners throughout the Middle West. Betty Balfour, a well-known and popular British cinema star before the microphone at 2LO. Passing electric trains often annoy the broadcast listener, who blames radio in general for the resulting scratchy noise in his receiver. A faulty contact shoe on one car of a train can cause considerable, although not serious, trouble. A poor connection inside the metal case of this lighting transformer could make broadcasting reception in this neighborhood very difficult. And if one of these power wires were scraping its insulation bare against a tree, or if there were a leaky insulator on this pole crossarm, unpleasant local interference would also be set up. Large motors and generators frequently set up interference for the broadcast listener. Sparking commutators on motors and collector rings on generators are responsible. This difficulty is not usually hard for the powerhouse to remedy. The operator with the loop receiver is verifying the cause of the trouble. Farm charging outfits can make trouble for the broadcast listener. The usual cause is badly sparking brushes on the dynamo. A washing machine motor such as the one shown here may produce enough static and radio receiver installed in the same house or very nearby to spoil the incoming concerts. Remedy: clean the motor commutator and clean and adjust the motor brushes. A small telephone exchange, showing the hand ringers which may intermittently set up interference to radio listeners. High-tension wires like these cause frequent disturbance to the nearby broadcast listener. Radio antennas at right angles to power wires such as these will pick up the least interference. Testing a transformer. One lineman with this car and loop receiving set can inspect a 66,000-volt power line with 28,530 insulators, where it took many linemen at a total cost of $6,000 for salaries and replacements under the old system. Making a radio map with a special loop receiver equipped to make particularly accurate measurements, the operator measures very carefully the signal strength of the station at various points. Where the Shenandoah got help, a corner in the Office of Naval Communications, Washington. These naval radio operators control NAA Arlington and NAL Washington Navy Yard. When the Navy dirigible Shenandoah recently broke away from her mooring mast at Lakehurst, New Jersey, and fought high winds for 9 hours, these two operators were in close touch with the runaway airship. Taking the code examination at New York. Embryo operators in the office of the radio inspector copying the omnigraph. The code examination must be passed before the second part, the theoretical, can be taken. Charles T. Manning conducting a code examination with the omnigraph at New York. All code tests for licenses last for 5 minutes. The radio antennas on a dreadnought. The illustration shows the antennas on the USS Colorado. The long cage antenna is used for the large arc transmitter. The other antennas are used for spark and radio telephone communication. The most important clock in the world is this chronometer at the Royal Observatory at Greenwich, England, the starting point of longitude in the world's maps. Signals from this clock are now sent out daily from all 9 stations of the British Broadcasting Company. How KDKA was retransmitted in England. The receiving set had 6 stages of tuned radio frequency amplification, detector, and 2 stages of audio frequency amplification. This special station is installed at Biggin Hill, near Manchester. Dr. J. H. Dellinger of the Bureau of Standards with the standard wave meter at the Bureau Laboratory in Washington. superheterodynes, and Major Edwin H. Armstrong, the originator of the superheterodyne circuit. The cabinet on the left is his original super, and the cabinet behind it is the working model for the finished commercial product on the right. Mr. H.W. Hoke, who aided Major Armstrong in the development of the set, is standing on the left. Where American broadcast programs are heard almost nightly. The extremely sensitive receiver at the Trafford Park Laboratories of the British Broadcasting Company near Manchester. The 6-foot loop in the foreground is used constantly in receiving 94-meter waves from KDKA, and recently the 104-meter wave of WGY. A wire line connects this station with the operating room and studio of the Manchester station 2AC. Captain A.G.D. West, Assistant Chief Engineer of the British Broadcasting Company. Captain West has supervised the successful rebroadcasting of American programs from WGY and KDKA on a number of occasions. "We have some difficulty in regard to distortion," says Captain West. "The announcer is usually quite intelligible, but in some speeches not a word can be understood, and this is perhaps when they are an outside broadcast. One of our chief troubles is from French amateur transmitters working on about 100 meters. Some of them spend their time tuning up and down for hours on end." Don Wallace, an amateur radio operator of Minneapolis at his station 9ZT. He was recently awarded the Prize Cup offered annually by Secretary of Commerce Hoover for the best amateur radio station in the country. The Old and the New. The towers of the United States Naval Radio Station NPP at Peking show in decided contrast to the good old Chinese roof in the background. An elaborate British amateur receiver, which is fairly characteristic of present-day English amateur construction. Testing the 2-element valve arrangement, plus a 3-stage resistance-coupled audio amplifier. The ideal combination. Incidentally, a partial view of radio station 2PI.